In the corners of our community, you can find historic houses like this that connect to the past of what these neighborhoods used to be many years ago. This particular house, however, will also help you connect that history to what's going on in the present and so many things that we are still figuring out how to do. This house is the Harriet Beecher Stowe House. This house was built back in the 1830s to be the first house of the president of the Lane Theological Seminary. Lyman Beecher came from New England to be their first president, and he brought with him his daughter Harriet. We know Harriet Beecher as Harriet Beecher Stowe, the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin. What many of us don't know is that so much of what became the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, were experiences and people that she met here when she lived in Cincinnati for 18 years. Today, Community Corner took a visit to this house so we could learn more about how Harriet's experience in Cincinnati helped her become the person that would write such an influential book, and also about how this museum helps visitors connect that history to things that are going on today.
Hi, my name is Christina Hartlieb. I'm the Executive Director here at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House in Walnut Hills. The things that we really focus on are the history of Harriet and Harriet's family, really focusing on why Harriet was able to write Uncle Tom's Cabin, the most famous and prominent anti-slavery novel of the 1800s. We also, this year, are focusing a lot on women's suffrage because it's the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. We currently have the Ohio History Connections Traveling Suffrage exhibit, and later this summer we'll be opening an exhibit about Isabella Beecher Hooker, Harriet's younger sister, who was an important suffragist back in Massachusetts, but lived in this house when she was a young teenager. And then we also focus a lot on contemporary civil rights issues and how they still are playing out today, and how the work that was done by Harriet is still manifesting itself in our history and our society today. So the house here in Walnut Hills during the 1830s and 40s was the home of the Beecher family. But the house has had an interesting history since then as well. In the late 1800s, it was owned by a family named the Montforts. They lived here for 60 years, or 3 generations. They actually added some portions to the house where our modern day bookstore and our staircase is now. And then also, during the 1930s, this particular house, the same house that was the Beecher family home, became an African-American boarding house, and it was a tavern listed in the Green Motorist book. So 100 years after Harriet's family lived here, and it's still a welcoming place for African-Americans. During the 1940s, during the middle of World War II, there was a group of citizens, both African-American and white, who came together and said, we want to make sure that this important piece of history is preserved. So they raised money to be able to turn it into a historic house. The original intention of that Harriet Beecher Stowe Memorial Association was to create a memorial to Harriet, but also an African-American cultural center. And I feel like as the decades have gone on, today's iteration of the house is really a welcoming place and a way that people can learn and understand the history of people's relationships. We're currently working on a renovation project with the Ohio History Connection. Over the last few years, they've done a lot of research in terms of what the house looks like. They've done a historic structures report to be able to understand how the house has come together. A 188-year-old house is not going to look the same as it did on day one. So right now, we are focusing on the exterior of the house. Earlier this year, we relocated the visitor entrance to the side door and built a new visitor entrance ramp there. They've done exterior work and interior work on the foundations with underpinnings and conical helix sphere kind of, I'm not an engineer, but at any rate, they've done the important work with the foundation, and then later this summer, they're actually going to be doing exterior renovation on the Beecher part of the house. So we have the study, the north facade, and the west facade, which will look as if it did in the 1830s and 40s, and so that will get a new treatment in terms of stripping the paint, doing tuck pointing, fixing the masonry, new windows and shutters, cutting out new windows where there used to be windows and they aren't there anymore, and removing the front porch and creating something that was more Beecher-esque for that. So all of that work is going to be happening later this year. Some of the specific things that we do in terms of tying contemporary ideas and issues into the historical and really focusing on that historical literacy, where we came from and how it is still affecting us today. So we've done discussion groups where we focus on the history of redlining and how that has played out in recent, or how that continues to play out today. We've also done, right now we're working on, our next discussion group is about 19th century African American women, because they have not received as much attention in terms of people talking about their particular issues. We also, even in the tour itself, we talk about contemporary ideas, specifically, you know, looking at what's going on in the world today. Harriet wrote a piece in 1836 that really described why mob violence was bad. And even if you don't agree with someone, that's no reason to beat them up about it. So those types of issues are some of the things that we focus on in terms of bringing the contemporary into the historical past. The Harriet Beecher Stowe House is now open again for tours. We are scheduling tours by appointment, generally from 10 to 4 Thursdays through Saturday and noon to 4 on Sundays. Those tours can be scheduled either by calling the house at 513-751-0651, or you can go online to our website, which is stowehousecincy.org, and at that point you can fill in our tour request form, and it will give you the options and give you all the specifics of what you need, and we'll send you a confirmation when we confirm your tour time. We like to welcome everyone here at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House. So if you are into Civil War history, or if you're just into that 19th century, I've got to know everything about this particular family, we can accommodate that with our tours. If you have young children, we can also accommodate you. We do tours with very interactive and talking to the children and getting them to answer questions about what's going on. We also have an activity book for the kids to do as they go through. And then if you've got those teenagers that are hard to please, well, you know what? We will try to bring them into the tour as well by asking them higher level questions and really getting them thinking about the ideas of freedom seekers and the ideas of writing for change and how people change public opinion in different ways throughout time. You know, today it might be a tweet. 150 years ago, it was through writing a novel. And Harriet Beecher Stowe gives us that example.
I learned so much about her. I didn't know she was a teacher. I didn't know that Harriet was part of a family of 11 siblings. I learned a lot about her.
I liked how they showed the real parts of the house. I like seeing inside the walls.
So if you've ever wondered how this white woman who grew up in New England was able to change public opinion about slavery, it's because of the 18 years living in this border city and the experiences that she had and the people that she met. So come on over to the Harriet Beecher Stowe House and we'll tell you all about it.
Thank you for joining me today in Walnut Hills at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House. If you'd like to know more about the Harriet Beecher Stowe House, be sure to go to their website and be sure to come down and take a tour of your own.